first on the story with Marine Le Pen. She's been found guilty of embezzling European funds to finance her party, their national rally, and she's been banned for 5 years from holding public office, which obviously puts her position for the next election in 2027 in serious jeopardy. What's been going on with the trial there in France?
So for those who haven't kept up to date with our studious written coverage over at Courage Media, we should run through some details. So Marine Le Pen, leader of National Rally, formerly National Front, under Jean-Marie Le Pen, her father, who, remember, she's lost in the last year or so it's been a pretty difficult year for her. She has been, as you said, found guilty of embezzlement for misappropriating funds that are meant to go solely to National Rally's European Parliament offices, and they're saying that she used them for her, let's say, local constituency office, because she is a local representative as well. Because of this charge, she's going to have to resign effective immediately as a local representative, and also she's banned for running for 5 years. Now, the important part about this is that OLAF, which is the acronym for the EU's anti-corruption body, anti-corruption being applied, let's say, not always non-partisanly, they have been the one to bring this investigation against her, resulting in the conviction. Now, people like my friend Alex Phillips, former comms person for UKIP and former Brexit Party MEP, and also Liberal journalist Michael Crick, both of them have said all sorts of parties do this. They see this as a fungible fund where if you pay into the pot, that frees up funds from elsewhere to then be spent on local affairs. And they've said everyone from the likes of the Lib Dems to left-wing French parties probably do this. But it's only ever the likes of UKIP or the Brexit Party or now National Rally that get brought in for interrogations and have these funds go through with a fine-tooth comb to try and trip them up on laws that aren't always applied consistently. So she's had 24 other co-defendants in this, and the allegations
I think in Britain the Green Party is another party where this is, that has used EU funds in the past very liberally to sort of help build up their base.
Yes, and they haven't been quite so stringently penalised, let's put it that way, which is casting clouds of doubt over to the legitimacy and the impartiality of this ruling, especially because France's judges are not impartially appointed, and there is, of course, the, let's say, Schmittian critique that there's no such thing as an impartial institution, but setting that to one side, they are explicitly political appointments. And I think it was around 2016 they had what was infamously called the Wall of Bastards, which were...
Yeah, I think 2013 actually.
That was it. A series of photos of right-wing French politicians, that they didn't like, and so the suggestion was that they might be targeting them for litigation, whereas they were a bit more soft on self-styled centrists like Macron or any of his left-wing and very far-left communist allies who he's entered into coalition with in the recent 2024 July election to block National Rally from becoming the main, the single largest group in the French Assembly, and to have Jordan Bardella become Prime Minister at the last election. Now, what's interesting is the funds concerned, 4 million quid over 12 years. So that's quite a lot of money in quite a long time frame that they're looking for misallocation or funds going missing or being misused. And she was charged for 474,000 of that. She's been given a 4-year suspended sentence. So she's going to serve 2 years suspended and 2 years under house arrest with sort of ankle tag. This is not irregular for that kind of charge. The charge is being brought forward against her specifically raises some eyebrows compared to the other parties also doing it. What's irregular is the 5-year ban on running for office. And this is why people are saying, is this politically motivated? Because at time of recording, right before this sentence was passed down, she was trending at 37% in the polls. Now, back when Sarkozy was elected, he was only about 33, 34%, and this was meant to be historically popular. So she had a landslide chance of winning, and Macron as well cannot run for another term as French president, so his successor is a less known quantity. So the allegation is they don't want National Rally to become the dominant party of France, so they're barring Le Pen on her third presidential run, and this is probably going to be the last one she would have ever done if she didn't win it, so they're just trying to take Le Pen out of the picture permanently. To clear up any allegations that this is the case, there has been the suggestion that Macron could pardon Le Pen, and this is not unlikely, I would suggest, because Jordan Bardella, her successor, who's got a lot of youth and vigour about him, is himself polling at 36%, and all of the leftist parties in France seem to have acknowledged, well, to be seen to be using the judiciary to persecute our political opponents, like the Democrats did with Donald Trump, could provide Le Pen a boost and fuel the narrative that the establishment are out to get the Populist Party, and provide them a sufficient bump in the polls to give them a commanding lead and make Jordan Bardella, who might be even more of a threat to them than Marine Le Pen, the next president.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jordan Bardella is certainly competing with Macron for, the young man of politics, the youngest politician, I think, to be head of state since Napoleon, for example. And I'm not sure how much Macron would be satisfied with someone eclipsing him like that. He's also, I think, 60% of National Rally supporters would fairly like Jordan Bardella to be the head of the party. So I suppose, unless Marianne Maréchal runs, it would be him coming in. Although I think he said we'll fight with Le Pen to the end. He's called for a rally in Paris this weekend to sort of show support for Le Pen.
I think, though, that's understandable because nobody likes a turncoat. So do you remember when Ron DeSantis was the most popular governor in Florida, was going to run for president inevitably, but then jumped the gun, ran for president for 2024, and when asked about Trump's persecution, he said, I don't know about paying hush money to a porn star or anything like that. And it appeared as if he was siding with the regime, with all of the unjust litigation against Trump, the politically motivated litigation against Trump, so that he could politically advantage himself, and it tanked his chances with the MAGA base, because he could have been heir apparent. J.D. Vance didn't even exist in the runnings at that point. He was still a junior senator with a little bit of appeal of guys of our stripes, the sort of Zumba radicals. Other than that, DeSantis was the man. So I think Jordan Bardella is understanding that he needs to play it safe, that he needs to keep the base loyal, and then he will inevitably become the heir apparent. But when you mentioned Marianne, this is an interesting ideological split within National Rally itself, right? Because Marianne is a lot more, I hesitate to say free market, but fiscally restrained on welfare spending than National Rally has been under Le Pen. They're quite protectionist, they're quite pro-welfare state, which is a very popular position in France. So I think that electorally, Marianne might be the less safe bet, but she does keep the growing young base of enthused Catholic reactionaries passionate about the party. Bardella has youth appeal.
Marine Le Pen does.
Marianne
Maréchal.
Yes.
Right.
Bardella seems much more cut from Le Pen's cloth.
He's more of a nationalist.
Yes.
He's less sort of economically libertarian.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so even though Bardella can grow the youth vote, and they've got impressive inroads with young French women, they're not seeing the same level of political polarization among the genders that other European and Western countries are, mainly because I think French women like the look of Jordan Bardella, and also immigration is a women's safety issue over there. So it codes differently than it does in the UK or even the US in the run-up to the last presidential election. I think Bardella can keep that youth vote in place, but Maréchal may actually be more in touch with the driving sentiments of the growing radicals who are coming up through the ranks. So it'd be interesting to see.
And she is theoretically a bit more established. She's been in politics for a bit longer. It's interesting how much sort of criticism there has been of this decision from notable figures in France, including some sort of left-wing figures. I mean, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far leftist party leader, has sort of made some grumblings. Also, the Prime Minister, Bayrou, noted, speaking as a private citizen, he was very uncomfortable with the judiciary acting in this kind of way. And you made the point earlier about, this not being irregular, but the banning from office. I mean, I think a lot of people had suspicion that Marine Le Pen would be found guilty because she did do it like everybody else has done it. There's a question as to why she's being investigated. But this 5-year ban or 4-year ban from holding public office, really at the discretion of the presiding judge is the sort of chief concern. And there could be an appeal, but courts are slow.
Yeah.
The politicians the government has no say over court timings.
Well, Charles Henry Galloy, who's one of the MEP sort of figureheads of Frexit, which Le Pen's distanced herself a little bit from for, I think, electorally expedient reasons, let's be fair, but, Le Pen ally.
She can always come back to it.
Quite. He noted that in the ruling justifying her harsher sentence and the 5-year ban, that the judge had referred to her Euroscepticism as a piece of hypocrisy because she was taking EU funds. So there is an ideological bent of the judge's own admission to this harsher treatment. And
because he noted she wasn't remorseful, which is why she was given this harsher sentence than other previous convictions.
Yeah. Well, the Prime Minister as well, I think him speaking out on that is a move for his own self-preservation, because as we recognise, he only got installed in December because the former EU Commissioner, Michel Barnier, was Macron's original pick after July. I think he was installed in September. And then he got taken down by a vote of no confidence because despite the coalition of every other party to block National Rally out from installing Jordan Bardella as Prime Minister, they still command a large number of seats, therefore a large number of votes. And therefore, if he upsets them too much, they might be inclined to depose him again and cause further instability in the French regime and make Macron and his inevitable successor look unfit for governing. And so shore up National Rally's chances of winning again. So I think all of the condemnation of Le Pen's treatment is because they know how bad the optics are, because they've just seen the poll boost it provided to Trump.
Do we think that something like this could make French politics more radical, push French politics further to the right? There's lots of media furore about how Marine Le Pen is on the far right, but she has been criticized by people like Zemmour for being too politically correct, for being too staid and sort of controlled and not wanting to push the boat out too much ideologically. And the RN is a sort of youth movement in many ways. Someone like Jordan Bardella might be taken away with ideas a bit further to the right of Marine Le Pen.
I would think that's not going to manifest before the election.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are playing a bit of a Ming Vase strategy. The perfect example of this was I was out at CPAC in DC. I was looking forward to Jordan Bardella speaking, because he would have been hanging around the executives area, and I might have gotten to say hi and asked him what his favourite Call of Duty game was. He pulled out because Steve Bannon had imitated Elon Musk's clumsy wave to deliberately troll the liberal media. And Bardella got a whiff of that, and because of accusations from French papers like Le Monde, who were there, saying, Steve Bannon, why did you do a Nazi salute, asking him to his face, Bardella pulled out of the event at very short notice. Even so, there was an anti-Semitism summit recently, and a group of Jews said that they did not want to show up to the summit because Bardella was there, because he has been tarred as far right by the very same press that he sought to appease by pulling out of CPAC. So I think that they're still intending to play this very careful electoral strategy to give National Rally a facelift. I mean, Le Pen went on a very conscious detoxifying, a de-demonization strategy to try and make it look less like the scary French far-right party that, unfortunately, her dad allowed it to be perceived as. And so I think any radicalism, any movement towards Eric Zemmour's positions on Islam and the cultural effects of immigration, for example, will come in the form of legislation after winning, but probably not in the campaign before.
Okay, so maybe some sort of sensible pantsuit diplomacy coming down the line. Orban's released his statement, Je suis Marine, and various other sort of, I think the Kremlin released one as well. I think we'll probably leave it at that. Will be interesting. We'll follow the story as it sort of unfolds, because I think it's very important for basically the future of Europe. And also, I don't know, it would be a shame if Bardella comes in and becomes the president after all of that tireless campaigning from Marine Le Pen over the years.